We are born free, and we will die free. The time in between, though, that's complicated. In that time, governments, institutions, and our egos will limit our ability to find true freedom in this life. These are real stories of real people overcoming the odds, persevering in justice, and unlocking their potential. Welcome to Finding Freedom. Here's your host, John Oderman.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Finding Freedom right here on the Lions of Liberty podcast network. And let me tell you guys, it's not been easy. Not been easy to bring this podcast to you today. It just seems like one thing after another going wrong. And it's absolutely crazy. I think this is my 498th episode, I believe, of Finding Freedom. Might be 497. I got to look at my count. But anyway, it's crazy. You do that many episodes, you podcast for more than 10 years, and it's just like some days it just like doesn't want to work. Yeah, issues with StreamYard, not letting me change my camera. I've used a Chrome browser for as long as I can remember on my Mac computer. And now all of a sudden, with the latest updates to StreamYard, they got a bug where the Chrome browser doesn't let you change your mic, doesn't let you change your camera, which is a problem because you need a working mic and camera. So anyway, overcome it. Had to download Firefox to bring this to you today. Been having issues with my Wi-Fi as well. So hopefully it doesn't go in and out here. But man. Also, and I almost forgot, this was supposed to be an interview. Was supposed to have a guest on this week, but that fell through, scheduling, planning, things like that. That'll happen, especially around a holiday weekend. So going to be a solo show today. Excited about it. A couple pretty darn important topics to talk about today. We're going to talk about the devastating, tragic floods that occurred in Central Texas. I'm going to, of course, talk about the Epstein, I always say it wrong, client list that apparently disappeared. It's gone. Pam Bondi was on her desk the one day. The next day, doesn't exist. Just kind of like the opposite of how there was no surveillance video footage of Jeffrey Epstein's cell, and now all of a sudden a reverse. Now it exists. The whole thing now exists. So it's crazy how that kind of it's a wild case. Things just disappear, they reappear, they come out of thin air. It's insane. And then lastly, I want to talk about the America Party. So not a long show today, for a couple different reasons. Of course, I talked about the technical issues. It's also very hot in the room that I'm in, and just don't have a lot of time today. So I'm going to get to my stuff quickly. But first, I want to talk about my good friend Stephen Fox over at Fox & Sons Coffee. Guys, if you haven't tried Fox & Sons Coffee, I made some got some cold brew here that I made out of the Ethiopian coffee that Stephen sent me. He actually sent me two different blends of or two different types, I should say, not blends, two different types of Ethiopian coffee. I made the one into a cold brew. The other one I'll try out later on, but this is delicious. Also using an espresso right now. My wife and I and my daughter have recently gotten really into espresso, making cappuccinos. Of course, my daughter, she doesn't use caffeinated. She's 9 years old. She but she likes the taste of coffee. It's weird. I didn't like the taste of coffee. I was exactly 18 years old. And it's like all of a sudden, I just realized I need coffee. And ever since then, I've been drinking it. So at Fox & Sons Coffee, that's FoxN, the letter N, sons.com. If you go there and you spend $40 or more, you can get 15% off when you use promo code John at checkout. So please go ahead and do that and support my good friend and fellow free thinker, a guy who probably agrees with everything that you're thinking if you're not an idiot. and you're listening to this show, a like-minded individual, support Stephen Fox, a great entrepreneur. Okay, so moving into the topics of today, what I want to talk about. So these Central Texas floods, man, God, it's just really, really honestly scary to think about. When I think about specifically the little girls that have passed away from these flash floods at Camp Mystic, especially like how it happened in the middle of the night, really scary. And considering my daughter was just away at a sleepaway camp before July 4th, we picked her up on the 4th, and when your kid goes away to camp, especially for the first time, this is the first time that my daughter had gone away to camp. Of course, she'd stayed with her grandparents, and she'd done sleepovers before for one night, but this is the first time going away to camp by herself. She didn't really. She had a couple girls that she'd met before that were there, but she didn't have any friends there. So it was, as mom and dad say goodbye, it was tough. Tough to leave her there. But she did great. She had an awesome time. She's able to just kind of adjust to any sort of situation and just coast on through. So that was great for her. But after picking our daughter up on the 4th of July from a sleepaway camp, and hearing about these floods, it just crushes my heart to even think about that. Parents saying goodbye to their kids for, I think, a week or two, and they're gone. It's tough, man. It's crazy. I can't imagine that situation. And I've been praying for, I've just been praying for those families, because it's unimaginable. I can't even really think how I would cope with something like that. But to get into the story of what happened there, and I don't need to go through everything, because a lot of people, everyone listening to this show, I'm sure, is aware of it. But July 4th, these flash floods came up in this area, Central Texas, along the Guadalupe River, Camp Mystic, right along the river, and there was a surge of 20 to 34 feet in some areas. 80 people, killing at least 80 people. Many are still missing. This includes children from that camp. Just a devastating, catastrophic story. Almost immediately after it happened, people started blaming President Trump, the Trump administration, DOJ, for cuts that had occurred to the National Weather Service. A lot of reporting looking into it, though. Really, I think it's pretty unfounded that cuts had anything to do with this. The National Weather Service issued a flood watch on July 3rd at 1:18 p.m., predicting 4 to 8 inches of rain. Early July 4th, Friday, July 4th, a flash flood warning with a considerable tag was issued at 1:14 a.m. for Kerr and Bandera counties, triggering mobile alerts. So your phones making that buzzing noise, annoying buzzing noise, letting you know flash flood emergency. And then a flash flood emergency was issued at 4:30 or 4:03 a.m. as the river rose. So the National Weather Service radar estimated 12 to 15 inches of rain, which far exceeded the 3 to 6 inch forecast for that area in the Hill County there in Texas. So a lot of people pointing fingers here. What went wrong? This area known to be prone to flash flooding. This has happened before in the past. Not really. I don't think in the past 10 years, but I think there was stuff in the 90s, 80s, 70s when this area had flooded like this. And a lot of questions. I saw an interesting post on Facebook by a meteorologist who talked about something that I've actually thought about in the past when it comes to tornado warnings. When I'm talking about tornado warnings, I'm talking about tornado warnings in my area in Western PA, where they're pretty rare to have tornadoes. Not in like Tornado Alley or the central United States that are more. They have a different type of alert system there that I'm not as familiar with. But Just so storm warnings, tornado warnings, flash flood warnings. This post talked about there being like a warning fatigue. I might add that word fatigue, but that's the way I look at it. I feel like people are inundated with these warnings, and then so often nothing happens. So often there's a flash flood warning or watch, and nothing actually materializes. So what happens over time, the human condition, as we're inundated with warnings, and then we don't see anything bad happen, we don't see any terrible weather, don't see any flash flooding, don't see any tornadoes, people naturally, you stop really taking the warnings seriously. It's the the old story of the boy who cried wolf. The boy who kept coming to the villagers saying, "There's a wolf, there's a wolf." And the first couple times, people panic and they get ready. The first times you hear flash flood warnings, like most of the time, little kids, when they hear a flash flood warning, or like my daughter recently was just asking about this a few months ago, with tornado warnings and flash flood warnings, and the buzzers going off on my phone, and she said, "Oh my gosh, it's tornado warning! It's a tornado warning! We got to get in the basement." And I'm like, we don't have to run to the basement here. Let me look at the radar, see what's around us, see if it's coming, if there's something, sketchy coming towards us. And we'll, if there is, we'll head down to the basement. So even I, like right there, I don't take the warning seriously. I'm like, yeah, I've heard these warnings before, and there's never been a tornado that hit my house. So let's just calm down and let's look at the radar and see what's actually coming. So I'm sure that at least played in part a little bit into this. I doubt that's the whole story, that it's, this warning fatigue. I would think that's a part of it. Probably a part of it is lack of preparation, lack of having contingency plans in place for people living in those areas. Maybe self-service not being good in those areas, so those alerts not going through. Probably a combination of a lot of factors, kind of a perfect storm here that brought this terrible outcome. People are going to continue to point fingers at Donald Trump, Trump administration, Doge for cutting NAV service. Who knows? Maybe it did have something to do with it. Not necessarily from an aspect of, we used to have 7 people, now we have 2, but maybe from a roles and responsibilities type situation, where somebody's doing a role that they hadn't been doing previously, and maybe they're not as good at it yet. So maybe something like that. I'm not going to rule that out, because of course, when you reorganize anything, any organization, and you mix up roles and responsibilities, maybe you remove a guy who does something that's really important, but maybe you didn't need one guy just to do that job. Maybe, you could spread that job amongst other responsibilities and not lose any efficiency or expertise. But perhaps there is a time frame where it takes time to learn that role, and maybe it hasn't been learned yet. I'm just wildly speculating here. That's what I do on this show. As a former risk manager, once a risk manager, always a risk manager. So you always look at the different touch points, what could have gone wrong, what were the triggers, what were the ways to prevent this, what were the ways to mitigate this. Not necessarily to mitigate the rainfall. I don't think we could do that. But to mitigate being in this situation and a contingency in place to get yourself out of the situation onto safe ground. There's a failure there, of course, because a lot of people died. So obviously there were failures. And something I've seen floated around, which, I'm just going to put a big tag on this. I don't know what to make of this yet. I don't know a lot about it. But I've seen a lot of posts on social media talking about cloud seeding potentially playing a role in this. I didn't realize how prolific, if that's the right word, maybe, or how common cloud seeding is, especially in Texas. So cloud seeding has been around in Texas since the 60s. They've been doing cloud seeding. It's regulated by the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation. It occurs between April and September during drought season to help with the crops in Texas, and it covers 31 million acres. So this is massive. This is a massive operation. Looking into potentially could cloud seeding have played a role? I have no idea. My first gut reaction is to say no, but I think it's important to talk about everything on the table, right? You're looking at, when you have a catastrophe like this, you have to look at every possible avenue of what could have occurred. Because when they do investigate this, they will shut things down and they will take us to a narrow path and point to something. It probably won't be the right thing. So as those of us in podcasting, social media, I look at, my role. It's just to bring information so you can research it and make your own decision. I'm not going to tell you what to believe, but there was a cloud seeding company operating in this area in Central Texas, July 2nd. So you're talking a day, 36 hours before. Now they say cloud seeding, these companies, and they say with cloud seeding that it cannot influence weather patterns. All they're doing is injecting chemicals into the clouds. They put, I thought I took that note there, silver iodine into convective clouds to encourage precipitation by promoting water droplet formation. There were reports in Texas, I believe on July 3rd, of blue rain in the area, which I believe would be coming from a cloud seeding type operation. I think it's kind of crazy for them to say that there is no way that cloud seeding can influence weather patterns. Coming from that risk background, like I said, looking at things probabilistically, you could say maybe it's a very, very low likelihood that anything like that would occur. But without knowing other conditions in the atmosphere, I'm sure there's some sort of scenario where cloud seeding could impact or influence weather patterns, maybe not directly in that area, but maybe, to the east of that system, or to the north or south, depending which direction it's moving. I think it's ridiculous to just discount, say it can never happen. That sounds absurd to me. So I think it's worth looking into that. I don't know if it played any role. I have no idea. Just giving you guys the information so you can check it out for yourself. Moving on to the next topic I want to get into, the Epstein files. And of course, everyone's seen by now, the DOJ, FBI have concluded there was no evidence that Jeffrey Epstein maintained a client list of associates they could use for blackmail, or some sort of conspiracy in order to that he victimized women in order to hold the video of those women being victimized by influential political leaders in this country in order to have control over them. They're saying the DOJ and FBI are saying no evidence of this. No evidence of this exists. And this is after Pam Bondi, Attorney General Pam Bondi, who said in February of 2025 that the Epstein list was on her desk for review. So somebody's lying here. And Occam's razor, simplest explanation. It's simplest explanation would be that Pam Bondi lied that it was on her desk. So why would she lie that it was on her desk? Was she told that it was going to be on her desk? I don't know. It seems crazy that she would just make this up, that the list is on her desk, as a stall tactic, as a way to get the media to believe one thing, to get them off of something else. I have no idea. I have no idea why Pam Bondi would say that or mention that. And this whole case is just, it doesn't make any sense. The other part of this, the new footage was released, and they're confirming now, the FBI, DOJ are confirming that Epstein died by suicide in his Manhattan cell in August 2019. And they're saying it's supported by footage, CCTV footage that shows no one entered his cell between 10:40 p.m. on August 9th and 6:30 a.m. on August 10th. So the footage released by the DOJ includes 11 hours of video with a clip showing Epstein being led to his cell at 7:49 p.m. on August 9th, and they're saying no suspicious activities were observed on this video. However, there is a full missing minute of the video that was released showing this missing footage. And of course, my internet is not loading this, so I'm not going to wait around for it. Anyway, I'll link to it on the show notes page. You can check it out. But 11:59 on the dot to midnight, there's a full minute of the video that's missing. So who knows? Maybe there's more stuff missing. I'm sure it takes time to review these videos from a journalistic standpoint. People who are actually doing real journalism. So we'll see what else is found. My gut feeling on this, the Epstein thing. The first thing I think is, okay, so we're saying that there is no Epstein list. So they're saying there is no blackmail. I think this just confirms that there is actually blackmail, and people who are in power currently are part of that list being blackmailed. Now, that's not to say that I believe Trump is one of those people, but it could be people that Trump is, very close with that he doesn't want coming out. It could be other world leaders that Trump wants to protect. I think it's ridiculous to think that, the DOJ, FBI comes out with this after all this smoke and there's nothing. So Jeffrey Epstein cohort, Ghislaine Maxwell, who's in prison for trafficking minors to who knows? He knows. And now I guess they're saying that there was nobody. She was just trafficking minors to no one. So why is she even in prison? The whole thing doesn't make any sense. It's crazy. And I feel like I'm taking crazy pills when I talk about it. And you look at Kash Patel, you look at Dan Bongino. These are two guys that look like they've just been neutered. You see the looks on their faces. They look like they've seen a ghost. So I don't know. It's a little bit, doesn't sit well with me that this is the way things have played out. And people will say, "Well, John, you voted for Donald Trump. Do you regret your vote?" After some things that have played out, how these Epstein files have been handled as the latest example. No, I don't. I don't regret it at all, because I honestly didn't expect anything to come from this. I didn't expect Trump to be some amazing freedom-loving president that lowered our taxes and slashed spending and got us out of all the wars. I did think a couple things he hasn't done. I did think he would be able to end the Ukrainian conflict more quickly. I didn't think, I did think that he would be able to de-escalate the Israeli Palestinian conflict, which he has not been able to really do to a large degree, somewhat. And Trump's a spender. So why did I vote for Donald Trump? I voted for Donald Trump to take the legs out from under the woke academia corporate establishment, which I feel has been done. As we talked on politics last week, UPenn is apologizing, for allowing a transgender swimmer, a man, to swim with women, and they've apologized to the women who he swam against. They've taken his titles and records away. So, by the way, if you haven't subscribed to our Politics Podcast exclusive feed, please go ahead and do that. Yes, you can get the Politics Podcast on the Lions of Liberty feed, but on the exclusive feed, we're going to have some unique content, some bonus content, if you will, that you'll only be able to get there. And we want you subscribed on that feed as well. So if you're a fan of this show, you're a fan of myself, fan of Brian McWilliams, fan of Brian Nichols, fan of Lou Perez, if you're a fan of any of us, please support us by going and subscribing to the Politics podcast feed. That's politics spelled with the T-I-C-K, like the blood-sucking insect, because that's what politicians are. And that's what we are learning more and more about every day. And when we see things released like the Epstein files not being in existence. They don't exist. They're not there. So I voted for Donald Trump, like just to go back to that, to take the legs out from underneath the woke establishment, to end the Ukrainian war, which unfortunately has not happened. I wanted lower taxes, which has not happened. Seeing Republicans celebrating the big, beautiful bill, which has just kept taxes at the same rate. I'm not sure why we're celebrating that. Same rate taxes should not be celebrated. Lower taxes should be celebrated. I voted in large part because of Doge, because of Elon Musk and what he was doing. So I still do consider Doge a success because of everything it exposed. Unfortunately, a lot of it, the majority of it, the 95% of it or whatever, is not going to be codified, unfortunately. So a lot of it will seep back in to the different tentacles of government, which is unfortunate. But a lot of the waste and fraud was exposed. Just the tip of the iceberg, as Elon Musk has said, but still worthwhile to get that out there. So, and of course, Ross Ulbricht. I voted for Trump to free Ross Ulbricht. Ross Ulbricht is free. So when I compare Donald Trump and that, a disappointing, first several months here, I'll give you that, a little disappointed. Comparing it to Kamala Harris and the world we'll be living in today, when Kamala Harris hates people like me, hates people like you, hates people who love freedom, love liberty, hates people who want low taxes, people who want less spending, people who want to end wars. Yeah, I'm happy with Donald Trump when I compare it to what Kamala would have been like. And I think anybody who is stating otherwise is lying. They're lying to your face. Which brings me to my next topic, which would be the America Party. Of course, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, big fights recently, right? We've talked about that a lot on politics the past few episodes, so go check that out. So Elon decided to form his own party after doing a poll, a couple of different polls on X, and seeing that greater than 65%, of 1.2 million respondents came through and supported this new party to fight against the duopoly. So when I look at an America Party and can it be effective, that's what Elon is calling this new party. The America Party has been founded. It's in existence. There's been people from both sides of the aisle that have come forward saying that they're at least interested. I'm not sure to what degree. You've seen people like Mark Cuban, Vivek Ramaswamy, one of the Krasenstein brothers. So you've seen some real swampy type people like that. Not Vivek. I like Vivek. I think Vivek is awesome. I'd like to see Vivek stay in the Republican Party because I don't think the America Party is going to really amount to much of anything. Although I will say this, I tweeted this out a few days ago. I do think the America Party, to this point already has had more influence on U.S. politics than the Libertarian Party has in the past 55 plus years. And that's saying something, because I do think the Libertarian Party has had their most influence in the past year by bringing Donald Trump into their convention to speak, getting the promise of Ross Ulbricht being pardoned, probably largely playing into RFK Jr. getting the head position at HHS, which I was remiss to miss before. That was also one of the main reasons I voted for Donald Trump, was to hold these corporations accountable to stop poisoning people with artificial dyes and junk in the food supply. So very happy with what RFK has done so far with Make America Healthy Again. Let me get a sip of my cold brew. But the America Party, how do I feel about it? I would support the America Party if it did two things. If it ended all foreign aid and if it ended all corporate welfare. If they promise to do that, I'm on board. I'll support them. I unfortunately, when you look at the people that are involved and potentially could be involved, like the Mark Cubans of the world, Elon Musk also, prior to supporting Donald Trump, comes from the left. He said some not good things about gun control too. Cuban, of course, supported Kamala Harris. So I don't necessarily think the American Party is going to come with a come up with a very principled set of of guiding principles. I think their philosophy probably will be pretty flawed, but I do think they will have influence, more influence than the Libertarian Party. And I've trashed the Libertarian Party a lot recently. Sorry about that, but it's just the way I see it. I love many people in the Libertarian Party. A lot of great people, of course. Brian McWilliams very much involved, and he has a vision for it. Maybe Brian will be right, and his vision will come true for the Libertarian Party. Maybe they'll be able to create a lot of crappy libertarians and actually influence politics in this country. Why I think that won't occur with the Libertarian Party is because you have so many people ingrained at the local level, state level, and even up on the LNC who are lunatics. They're mentally unstable people. They are people who their entire life is the Libertarian Party, and they will hang on for dear life. They'd rather drag the ship down than see it have success if it's not molded in the way that they see how a libertarian should act. So I think the Libertarian Party will have less of an effect going forward than the America Party. I think it's interesting. The America Party, founded by a foreigner, Elon Musk. Like I talked about before, Vivek Ramaswamy, he's said some nice things about the American Party. Who knows what his involvement will be? Of course, Vivek, born in India. Both are naturalized U.S. citizens. I think it's interesting. I think some of the best citizens that we have in this country, I will say this about foreigners, some of the best citizens we have in this country are naturalized citizens who went through the immigration process. They paid the money. They took the test that a lot of Americans would fail in order to become U.S. citizens. And people like that, I think, have more respect for being a U.S. citizen than actually naturally born U.S. citizens, because it was just gifted to them. It dropped into their lap. They did nothing to attain that citizenship. Of course, I fall in that category as well. The naturalized U.S. citizens have had to work their butts off to get that status, and they value it for that reason. And at the same time, they don't want people coming in, illegal immigrants, taking that status without working for it. I think the naturally born U.S. citizens are more likely just to give it away because they have no value for it. It was just gifted to them upon birth. So they think, it should just be gifted to everybody. So there's definitely a disconnect there. So I think it is interesting, and there could be an angle, an immigration angle, to maybe reform immigration coming from the American Party that maybe makes a little bit more sense because it's coming from people who have tremendous respect for legal immigration and might be able to fine-tune immigration in a way where there's still that respect there, but it's not just handed and given away, like we see the left want to do. And like we've heard recently that Donald Trump might do something with agricultural workers and hotel and restaurant workers who are illegal immigrants. So I don't know. More to come on that. We'll keep our eye on the American Party, on the America Party. I think it's a great name. If you're going to name a political party anything, that's probably the best name you could pick. The America Party. Who doesn't love America? Who doesn't love, wearing American flags and waving American flags? Fascists don't. Antifa doesn't. But everyone else does. The left doesn't, for the most part. But anybody who loves America, everybody loves America, right? To some degree, for different reasons. But that's basically all I got for today, guys. I said it was going to be a shorter show, so I will head out here. I do want to remind you that if you like this show, if you like what we're doing here at Lions of Liberty, please do consider joining the Lions of Liberty Pride on Patreon or on Locals. We do have bonus content that comes out from time to time. We got discounts on merchandise, things like that, access to talking with the group in a monthly Zoom call at our higher levels. You can talk with myself, Brian McWilliams, Brian Nichols, and Lou Perez. And yeah, subscribe to the Politics Podcast. We need your support. Go subscribe. Leave a 5-star review and say something nice about us. Say you like the podcast. That helps so much with the algorithm. All right, with that being said, I'll be back next week with another awesome interview, and I'm coming up on 500 interviews. So you're going to want 500 episodes. You're going to want to tune in for that 500th episode. It's going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to it. I will reveal my guest the week before it comes out. All right, guys, I'll see y'all next week. Have a great week. And in the meantime, always keep your head up and the fires of liberty burning.